Lillian Carter was 59 years old when she finally believed her life had settled into something gentle. From the outside, her story looked unusual, even scandalous. She was nearly 60, married to a man 31 years younger than her. Ethan Ross was only 28 when they met, a yoga instructor with calm eyes and a voice that seemed designed to soften pain. People stared when they walked together. Some whispered. Others smiled politely and judged silently, but inside their home, life felt peaceful. Predictable. Safe. They had met 6 years earlier in a quiet yoga studio in San Francisco, the kind filled with soft lighting and the faint smell of eucalyptus. Lillian had recently retired from teaching after decades in the classroom. Her body ached constantly, especially her lower back, and the house felt unbearably quiet after losing her first husband to illness. Ethan had been one of the instructors. He moved slowly, spoke gently, and never rushed anyone. When he helped her adjust a pose, his hands were respectful, his tone calm. And when he smiled at her, it felt like the world paused for just a second. They started talking after class. Then coffee. Then dinners. Against every warning she received, Lillian allowed herself to hope again. Friends told her the same thing over and over. He's after your money, Lillian. You're lonely. Be careful. And yes, Lillian was wealthy. Her late husband had left her a comfortable life, a 5-story townhouse downtown, 2 healthy savings accounts, and a beach villa in Malibu. Enough to make anyone suspicious, but Ethan never asked for anything. Instead, he cooked every meal. He cleaned the house without being asked. He massaged her back when the pain flared up. He called her little wife or baby girl in that soft, affectionate voice that made her feel cherished rather than old. Every night, without fail, Ethan brought her a glass of warm water mixed with honey and chamomile. Drink it all, sweetheart, he'd whisper as she settled into bed. It helps you sleep. I can't rest unless you do. And so, she drank. For 6 years, Lillian believed she had found something rare, a quiet love that expected nothing in return. A man who chose her, not her money. A life without chaos, until one ordinary evening changed everything. That night, Ethan told her he planned to stay up late. I'm making an herbal dessert for my yoga friends, he said casually, kissing her forehead. Go to sleep first, baby. Lillian nodded, turned off the bedside lamp, and lay still beneath the covers. But sleep didn't come. There was no sudden fear. No loud warning. Just a small, stubborn feeling in her chest that refused to settle. A sense that something was off, though she couldn't explain why. After several minutes, she quietly slipped out of bed. The hallway lights were off. The house was silent except for the faint sound of humming drifting up from the kitchen. Lillian moved slowly, her bare feet careful against the hardwood floor. She stopped at the kitchen doorway. Ethan stood at the counter, relaxed, focused. He poured warm water into her usual glass, the same one he used every night. Lillian watched, confused but calm, until he opened a drawer. From inside, he pulled out a small amber bottle. Her breath caught. She watched him tilt it carefully over the glass. 0.1 drop, 0.2, 0.3 yacht. A clear liquid disappeared into the water. Then, as if nothing had happened, he added honey, chamomile, and stirred gently. Lillian felt her body go cold. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Every loving moment from the past 6 years suddenly replayed in her mind, now colored with doubt. Ethan picked up the glass and headed upstairs. Lillian rushed back to the bedroom, slipping under the covers just as he entered. She slowed her breathing, pretending to be half asleep. He smiled warmly and handed her the glass. Here you go, baby girl. She forced a yawn. I'll finish it later, she murmured. Ethan hesitated for a fraction of a second, so brief she might have imagined it, then nodded and climbed into bed beside her. Within minutes, he was asleep. Lillian did not move. Hours passed before she carefully got out of bed again. She took the glass, poured its contents into a thermos, sealed it tightly, and hid it deep in her closet behind old coats she never wore. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She waited for morning. At sunrise, Lillian dressed quietly and drove herself to a private clinic across town. She didn't explain much. She simply asked them to test the liquid for any substances that didn't belong. The technician raised an eyebrow but accepted the sample. The results came back that afternoon. The liquid contained a mild sedative, legal, but only by prescription. Combined with herbal ingredients, it would cause drowsiness, disorientation, and memory gaps over time. In older adults, long-term use could increase confusion and dependency. Lillian sat perfectly still as the doctor explained. She thought about how tired she had been lately, how foggy her mornings felt, how she sometimes forgot small things, appointments, conversations, details she once remembered easily. She drove home in silence. That evening, she served dinner as usual, smiled as usual, watched Ethan talk about his day. That night, when he handed her the glass again, she took it calmly. "Thank you," she said, but when he wasn't looking, she switched it with a glass of plain water she had prepared earlier. Ethan drank from the other glass without hesitation. Days passed, then weeks. Lillian stopped drinking the mixture entirely, and something became very clear. She felt sharper, more alert, stronger. Ethan, on the other hand, began acting differently. He became irritable, forgetful, restless at night. One evening, Lillian finally spoke. "What's in the water you give me?" she asked quietly. Ethan froze. For a moment, his loving expression slipped. Then he smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just herbs," he said. "Why?" Lillian placed the clinic report on the table. "I know everything," she said. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Ethan tried to explain. He said he was afraid she'd leave, afraid she'd realize she didn't need him, afraid of losing the life he'd built beside her. But Lillian already had her answer. That night, she slept alone. Within a month, Ethan was gone. The marriage was quietly dissolved. The house returned to silence, but this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt honest. Lillian now pours her own water at night, and she sleeps better than she has in years.